What is up, everybody? I am not Blake. I am Ferris, but I am here with Ron tonight.
What's happening?
It's what is it, August 21st? So who wouldn't think Halloween at this time?
Right.
Am I right?
Yeah.
I mean, in all seriousness, we are all tied up in Halloween in one way or the other for various parks around the eastern seaboard here. So this was the only night that two of us could pod. Next week, I think it might just be Blake and I. Am I right in saying that? Yeah, because it's the only night that, because we're just all tied up doing various Halloween things at this time on August 21st. And I'm sure the pumpkin spice will be out in Starbucks soon.
Perfect.
And all the
pumpkin beers are flooding the market.
Yep.
Right?
Oktoberfest beers, too, by the way.
Yep.
So it'll just be Ron and I tonight going through week 1 of the Premier League. It is back, baby.
Oh, so nice to have it back.
So good. And with a new season comes new clubs, new kits, new managers, new haircuts, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And new player manager controversies. And we'll get into a few of those here. But we'll, of course, we'll highlight the main match of the week, which is Man City just picked up where they left off in the league by beating 85 man at this point.
42.
42 man Chelsea 2-0 at Stamford Bridge. Then we'll ring in the new season as well with our first run, but our return run, if you will, of our 2-minute drill for all of the rest of the action, scores, and storylines around the league. Then we'll blow the halftime whistle as the posting sterling of the Salisbury steak and the media moresca of the Mangarine pie. Ron fills our brains with all the news that's fit to drink in this edition of Ron's Beer News.
Ugh.
For once, I get to read that.
Yeah.
I forgot what I read. I almost stumbled over it. So no wonder Blake has a hard time doing that. And finally, we'll scoot our way into the second half and not be late like Man City got charged for several times last season.
Yep.
Of the pod and the return of the La Liga's roundup. As both the Serie A in Italy and La Liga in Spain kicked off their campaigns this weekend as well, with the Bundesliga starting theirs up this coming weekend. And then finally, I'm sure you've heard by now, we will close out the pod with a hint, a strong hint, a confirmed reports, we won't say who it is right now, but the U.S. men's national team might have a new high-profile manager soon.
Dun, dun, dun. If something else doesn't screw it up first.
Exactly. But first, our beer. Ron, you want to go first?
I would love to. So, continuing the travel beer that we've been doing over the past, couple of weeks. I feel like almost all my beers are travel beers now. I have a beer from a little town south of the California border called Mexicali.
Mm.
Yeah, there's this cool little brewery, which I'm gonna try not to butcher its name. I think it's Cucapa, but I'm sure all of the listeners who speak Spanish just clicked off their radios.
Sure.
So it's a brewery in Mexicali, which is just over the border into Mexico. And they have this fun beer that's called Meet the Cucapa Amber, an amber ale with mild flavors, which converts the malts and barleys of its ingredients into a beer that is as artisanal as it is original. Now, this brewery is founded in 2002, like I said, located in Mexicali. It was acquired by Grupo Modelo in 2015, but the product they brew comes from, or I guess the name of the brewery comes from the Cocopah, which was one of the 5 indigenous tribes that lived in the Mexicali Valley. So that tribe was the first settlers of the region. and their love for the water and nature took them to live in that, I guess it's the Colorado River Delta down there. So the tradition of nature and the water of the river and the geographic location and their initiative of being the first people to explore the region is what makes Cerveceria Cucapa as unique as the tribe's ancestors.
Cool.
So this is kind of an interesting beer. It's a 4.5 in the old ABV. It's a amber ale with a sub-style of an American pale ale. So this should be an interesting one to check out.
Interesting indeed. I'm kind of jealous that I'm not there. I'm sorry. Did you say you had a can or a bottle?
It's a bottle.
It's a bottle.
And they have a cool picture of the.
Oh yeah, look at that.
The view of the factory. So I went onto, Google Earth and did the street view image, and this is looking right out the back of their factory into the mountain.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that a sight?
Yeah. So that's
Very
what I'm
cool.
doing. What are you doing?
Well, I'm kind of jealous I'm not there trying it. If your ears are attuned to our podcast, you will notice that I am not in the studio with Ron. I'm at home. Been feeling a little bit under the weather as of late, so I've worked from home for the past few days. But you know him, you love him. John Jameson is going to be joining me for just a shot tonight. I'm just going to soothe the throat a little bit with a shot of Jamie, and then I'm going to do the old H2O for the remainder of the pod, just to try to keep myself a little bit more healthy as I get into a busy season here. So
yeah, fair
I
enough.
won't go into great detail about Mr. Jameson. You're very familiar with him. You should be at this point, but
Right.
That's all I'm going to be doing.
Let's crack this thing.
Twist this cap off the bottle. Pouring it into an Orlando City shot glass because they go back into the league this week. I think they're on the road. I don't remember who they're playing.
Sporting KC?
That's right. They're at Children's Mercy Park.
Oh, well, this is a very characteristic amber ale. Kind of epitome of the style, if you will. Not much of a head, but a really amber,
Yes,
deep
sir.
red color.
Yes, indeed.
Smells quite tasty. All right. Cheers, my friend. Hope
So
you feel
much.
better.
Thank you.
Woo. Are they right?
Yeah.
This is a malty one. Woo. Very sweet, kind of honey toffee kind of notes in there.
Interesting. Okay.
A little bitter up front, smooths out into that kind of malt taste, and then kind of a dry finish.
Interesting.
No,
I wouldn't have guessed that necessarily. I mean, the color looks like it's an amber, but what you just described doesn't necessarily match the color that I see.
Yeah, fair. No discernible kind of pale ale feeling to it from the sub style. But I don't know. I don't know how you would do that sub style with an amber.
Maybe that's from the. Excuse me. Maybe that's from the look of the beer. It looks more like that. Yeah. But probably tastes more like the amber ale to which you described.
Yeah. It's not bad. I mean, I don't know that I'd order it every time I went to the pub, but every once in a while, sure.
So we're literally doing a shot and a beer on the pod tonight.
You gotta love it.
Yep. Just it's Jameson so good when it hits the lip, kind of soothes the throat. I didn't do an actual shot. I mean, I have a shot, but I'm gonna sip on it.
Just gonna nurse it.
Go along, yeah. As I
help clean out your sinuses.
Exactly, and as my family said, we're just gonna have a little bit of a nip before going to bed.
You gotta love it. Well, shall we move ourselves along?
Why not? There's a little Premier League action. Well,
Man City 2, Chelsea 0. despite a depleted starting lineup due to the Euro players just returning and it being the first match of the season and all, Man City picks up right where they ended their campaign last season with a pretty solid grind out win over Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. The victory was accomplished through first half goal of Erling Haaland in front of the songbird himself, Mark Cucurella, who should have never opened his mouth.
Nope.
Which was then followed by the second half by an ex-Chelsea midfielder with a stake to the heart. And
it's not you, it's me.
It was a marauding goal through the midfield.
Yes, it
from
was.
Distance and just racked it to the back of the net. Well, despite him refusing to celebrate, against his own club, it only piled matters on because it was 2-0 on the evening. And as pre-match and former Man City, now Chelsea player Raheem Sterling was excluded from Maresca's match day squad, which left Sterling's camp to release a statement, which was entertaining. Part of which he said he was going to ask for clarity on the future of his career at Chelsea Football Club. So, what do you make of the match?
The match was, it's a first game for both clubs. So the match was sloppy at parts, but all in all, what you kind of expect right now with a Man City club just coming off of winning their 4th Premier League in a row. Pep's still there, possibly in his last season. We'll talk about that a lot this season because he's on his last year of his deal. And then going up against a Chelsea squad that just seems to be in shambles from a lot of different size. It was a pretty routine 2-0 win for them.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some good showings there from both sides, from both players. They kept Cole Palmer at bay, didn't allow him to get on of it. Also, Cole Palmer was playing off to that right wing spot.
Yeah.
With Enzo playing in the center attacking.
I know.
Which was weird because Maresca came out at some point in the summer and said Cole Palmer's best position is in number 10, but then you don't play him there your first game.
Yeah.
So it was weird from that sense, but from a City sense, no Rodri, no Kyle Walker. They just sold Julian Alvarez. You had some other players, the John Stones and some other players that were at the Euros that weren't on that squad there. You had a Kovacic start in midfield who I thought had from not just the goal, but from start to finish had a wonderful game that they just plugged and played.
Yeah.
And they outplayed, they out-tacticized, they outpassed, they outshot. Haaland's goal had a bit of everything to it. Power, strength, finesse,
luck,
finishing.
Yeah, all of it put together.
Right. And he only probably had 7 touches of the ball in the whole game or something like that. I don't quite know. But that's what he does. When he's in the box, he can make that happen.
Yeah.
Because he has all of those aspects. He can score goals with his head because he's big, he's powerful, he's strong. He can jump over those people. He can do it with his feet. He can finesse the ball in. All of that was in this goal. And then, as you said, the Kovacic just run right up the center. Like, it's almost, he was like, nobody's coming at me. Okay, I'm gonna have a shot. And as soon as it left his foot, I was on the couch and knew that was a goal. And I kind of said to myself, oh my, because it was a lovely strike and a lovely run, but nobody from Chelsea really felt like defending or stepping up to him or closing down the ball or any number of things.
Yeah, and one thing also on the Man City side, their signing of Savio, he looked bright.
Oh, he did. He absolutely did.
Unfortunately, he's
Good
removed. He was, he was substituted. That's the word I was looking for. Substituted because he messed up his knee, and so he was sitting on the bench with his knee all wrapped in ice. Hopefully, there's nothing serious on that. because that kid looked so bright in the beginning of that
he
match.
Certainly did. Yeah, absolutely did. But what do you make, Ron, of the whole pre-match kind of headlines? I don't know if maybe that affected the squad at all. I'm sure it didn't. But it's certainly a talking point with Sterling coming out with a statement when he probably found out the day before that he wasn't going to be not only not starting, but not even in the match day squad. And real quick before you answer, I'll read his statement so we don't mince words or anything like that. It was put out by a spokesperson for Sterling, so take that for what you will. Raheem Sterling is contracted to Chelsea Football Club for the next 3 years. He returned to England 2 weeks early to conduct individual training and has had a positive preseason under the new coach, who has developed a good working relationship with him. As a camp, I'm sorry. He is committed as ever to delivering at the highest level for Chelsea FC and the fans who he holds in high regard. And given his inclusion in official club pre-match material this week, our expectation was that Raheem would be involved in this weekend's fixture in some capacity. As a camp, we have always had positive dialogue with and assurance from Chelsea FC in relation to Raheem's future at the club. So we look forward to gaining clarity on the situation. Until then, we will continue to support Raheem's desire to start the new season positively.
There's so much to unpack.
Right?
Right. And it honestly, only a little bit of it has to do with Sterling. Right. So Sterling was the first signing of the new ownership. It started under Tuchel. And I kind of feel like it was doomed from the start. And I only say that because he's the most expensive Chelsea player. He's on like 250,000 or 300,000 a week.
Yeah.
And he is not the superstar player that a team gels around. He's the quiet kind of Eden Hazard type to an extent, right? Maybe not in productivity of goals and assists and all that, and so the Sterling experiment, if you will, has not paid off on any of the years he's been playing. So I understand why Chelsea would want to move that contract on. But they just continue to beat up the players.
Yeah. And I think it's not handled greatly at this point, right? You have new owners, you have a new manager who probably wants his own squad and his own folks, right? He brought in Lewis Hall from Leicester, where he coached, and he brought in a few others. But listen to the other names of notable absences that he left off of this. Raheem Sterling, Georgi Petrovic, Colin Gallagher, Roman Lukaku, Desai, Chukwuemeka, Chilwell, Chalobah, Broja, and Kepa. All of those were prior to his regime, right?
Yeah.
So there's a clear kind of divide here if he wants his folks in play or his players on the field. And it's going to take time. So he has to pick and choose the players that are there, the 4,700 of them that are there that he wants. And these are clearly the names of the old guard, if you will, that he doesn't want there. I think that's pretty clear from this, to not include somebody of Raheem's talent who can even be an impact off the bench, who didn't go to the Euros, who in his statement, if his statement is true, and from everything that both, his side and the manager has said, they've had a good relationship, they trained well, yada, yada, yada. It's a bit puzzling as to why he's not even in the squad. Now, with that said, there are 42 players on the roster, so there's going to be a healthy amount that are left off the match day team, right?
Yeah.
And not all due to injury. And this is not the case here.
Sure.
But I think that is an interesting thing to unpack in a way that he wants his players there. And maybe this is a first shot saying, you guys aren't the players that I want here.
Right. I mean, to be honest, I think that Maresca coming out in the press and saying, look, you're going to struggle for minutes. I'm looking for a different style of winger. I like that. None of that is bad for me. He's at least being honest.
Yeah.
In his approach of what he is trying to accomplish. So for that, since the new owners have taken over, he is the only person who has actually talked about a plan. The front office doesn't come out and talk about whatever our plan is. Any of the previous managers, be it Potter or Lampard or Poch, no one came out and talked to anybody about the plan.
Well, and I think that's partly because of all those names that you just said. Their plan probably didn't jive with whatever leadership is there to bring these players in from Bolian Group. They're clearly some sort of miscommunication, or they're not all on the same page in some fashion. So you saw what happened to the other three, you know, right. Tuchel gone, Potter gone, conscious on coupling of Poch, hint might come up a little bit later, but all three of them are out the door. Now, to that point that you just made, Mauricio Pochettino, or what the hell's his name?
Maresca,
it has come out and has that plan, right? Is very clear in the things that he's saying of he wasn't a selection at this time, you know, the wing play and that sort of. He has a system that he wants to play. He's trying to instill that with the 40-some players that he has in there. And at this point, he wasn't a part of the squad. The same way that Colin Gallagher has just sealed a move to Atletico Madrid.
Right.
How Chilwell is reports today that he was offered up to Man United.
Right.
Broja just left on loan to Ipswich. Lukaku, I mean, he's been on loan 700 times, so he can end up probably anywhere in, Italy. So it's Maresca kind of seeing that, going, here's the players that I want, here's what I don't want, here's how I'm going to try to do it. Will that be sustainable, though, for the ownership if those results don't come?
I mean, they said the same thing that they had said for Poch and for Potter, right? Which was, he's our manager, we're behind him 100%, and he's the man that's going to lead us into the future. So I think that if Maresca cannot get Champions League football back at Stamford Bridge by the end of the season, he'll be gone. Because everything in the club is pointed to Champions League football, right? We don't have a shirt sponsor.
Still, yeah.
And the reason we don't is because the valuation of the shirt sponsor is much higher if you're in Champions League football than if you're just in the league. So we only want to sign 1-year deals, because if we have a multiple year deal with a shirt sponsor, when we're not in Champions League, if we do make Champions League at the end of this year, those folks who sponsored the shirt, we just left money on the table.
Yeah. And you know, you see that it was written into the Snapdragon, or was it the Adidas thing with Man United, where they will lose out on funds if they don't make Champions League. I personally thought it was because nobody wanted to be on the front of that god-awful kit, but that was just me for you all. But
it's not that great a kit. I think the only other thing that I want to kind of have a quick chat about before we move on is that none of this would be so bad if it didn't all look like shady business dealing.
Which is weird of you to say, because the shady businessman left the club a while ago amongst Russian oligarch and how he obtained his funds and when he obtained his funds and all of that. So it's interesting to you to continue to say that, I guess, if you will.
Well, this one, I mean, they really go after the players in this one, right? Yeah. So Conor Gallagher wants to play for the club. He's homegrown, right? Comes from the Chelsea Academy. So
vice captain, right?
He was the captain last year.
Oh, so then is it Ben Chilwell's vice captain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes, he's pure profit. But last year, between him and Cole Palmer, they are the only two that played with any urgency, any heart. They bled blue for the club last year. And so we're going to move him on, and we're going to kind of replace him with Joao Felix, which I think that's kind of a different discussion. But they dangled a contract in front of him that was subpar and a short contract. They're putting everyone else on 6, 8, 10, 15, 87-year deals. And they hang a 2-year contract in front of Conor Gallagher for substandard money. And they're like, well, if you want to stay, sign it. So they essentially forced him out of the club. And then the deal on the other side falls through. So he's on the plane back and forth. But here's this guy who wants to play ball. He wants to play for your club. Team.
Yeah.
And I don't know another midfielder that you would get that would work nearly as hard for you or work hard for a manager than this guy who grew up through the academy.
No, and that's a very good point from you, because what was it this just a few weeks back when all of this was going on with the saga between Gallagher and Madrid and all of that was they extended, I don't say they offered, but they extended Cole Palmer from like the year 2028 to the year 2033.
Correct.
So, yeah, that's a very good point for me to go, like, well, listen, that guy over there who plays essentially the same position as I do or in the midfield with me, right, you just extended, who was already on this super long 7-year deal or 6-year deal, however much it was. You extended him another 4 or 5 years, 3 years, whatever it was. Now you're offering me this?
Right.
But I the same, I'm sure the same with him. He wants to play here. Well, so do I. I was the captain, for God's sakes, last year. Right. This is what you offered me. So listen, it's certainly, and with Sterling's statement, is it the right time to come out with a statement? Should a player be coming out with a statement like that because he wasn't included in the matchday squad, which is clearly, not up to him,
right?
If you will. We haven't gotten to that. We won't necessarily get into that, but and showing you that just the leadership in general there is why this is a hot mess at the time with all of these thousands of players that they have.
And it's not only Gallagher, right? Nope. Trevor Chalobah, who was probably our best defender last year, is also getting the shaft, right?
Chilwell, the vice captain.
Right. Chilwell. It's just crazy that Chelsea have put themselves in this position, but they're taking it out on the players who got them to 6th place last season. And now it's like, what have you done for me lately? You're out.
Yep.
And I wouldn't mind if it wasn't so also collectively shady. It's also, it's so very American baseball politics mixed with business.
Yep.
And that is really sad because I don't really recognize the club at the moment. They're all in blue. They look like Chelsea. They kind of play like Chelsea, but the rest of it is all up in the air. So it's I'm not even mad. I'm just sad. I'm disappointed that this is the way our club is being run.
And I think that's how Bowley felt when he was seen leaving the game early when it was 2-0 after that second goal.
As soon as Kovacic buried that shot from distance, he just went inside. Enough. Yeah.
And we will leave it there.
Ugh. So sad.
All right. Let's move along to the rest of the action of the opening week in the Premier League as we recap all of the rest of the matches. As we ask one question and our smart ask comment of each match in our 2-minute drill. Kick us off, Ron.
On Friday, Manchester United hosted Fulham, and the NBC crew, who is going 12 years strong. Can't believe that's 12 years. It's awesome.
Right.
They were all at Old Trafford to kick off the Premier League season. After just the 80th minute mark, it was the new 6'4" Dutch striker, Joshua Zirkzee, who ignited his United debut, got himself on the sheet in front of the Stretford end for a 1-0 win to Man United. So, do we really see a better start for the season for United?
Yeah, I think it was. Largely the game, Fulham had their chances here and there, but for the large part, Lisandro Martinez and Maguire played well together. The new back Mazraoui played very, very well on his debut. Dalot solid off there. Casemiro looked much better than he did last year. It's only game one, so we'll see, and time will tell. But I think all in all, United did look stronger despite not having an out-and-out number 9 on the pitch. And maybe that's what they missed with Cersei, who's a different number 9 than Højlund, in which you'll see them play. But Mason Mount had a chance or two.
Yeah, he had
Bruno,
an okay game.
Yeah, Bruno had a few different clear chances.
Yeah, but it's always fun to watch him miss.
Well, but in fairness, they weren't necessarily missed. They were saved. And they were some good saves. But it's like him and Mount were debating over who's going to play the false 9. Maybe I'll do it this time. Maybe you'll do it this time, which was kind of interesting to see. And I didn't mind it because they were kind of switching between that role depending whoever was in a better position. I thought Rashford looked better than he did last season. He missed a howler and probably passed when he should have shot and those type of things. But by and large, he looked good. Diallo out on the right, not effective as he has been in preseason, but still looks strong. Garnacho still going to probably be the on and on starter for the season over Diallo. But all in all, yeah, I think it was a much better first game than it was last year with Wolves, where it was a controversial pen on how they won. And then we saw how the rest of the season played out. So 37 more games to go. But all in all, yeah, I think it was a much better start. The early match on Saturday featured newcomers Ipswich as they hosted Premier League giants Liverpool at Portman Road. And although it took Arne Slot's men a little bit to get going, it was in the second half when Diego Jota and, of course, Mo Salah saw out the match with a 2-0 win on the road on opening day. This match was early, but what did you make of Arne Slot's first competitive match in the Premier League?
I think it was largely what we were going to expect. Right? I don't think it's fair to compare him to Klopp's all-out, go, go, go. It was a bit more measured, I think, a bit more cerebral, if you will. Also, to note that Liverpool didn't have any real signings over the transfer window.
None as of yet. Absolutely none.
So, while it took them a little bit of time to build up some steam and some momentum and kind of shake off the cobwebs, I thought the second half was quite strong. Like I said, a bit more measured, a bit more cerebral than we're used to seeing from a Klopp side. But I quite enjoyed it. It was, both goals were lovely goals, and I think Arne Slot's first match was a success.
Yeah, I agree. I think it, much like every other match of this first week, it's teams trying to figure out who they are, not up to speed yet, not up to pace yet. A new manager trying to instill things, so some new play. But yeah, I agree. I think all in all, anytime you have Jota on the field, he's a poacher, man. He is absolutely a poacher and will find the net. He may come up most times in under Klopp, especially last year. He came off as a sub a lot. This match he started and got the goal, but a good starting lineup from them. Pretty much what you're going to see starting for them, with the exception of a few, or maybe this might be Slot's, starting lineup. But all in all, yeah, it was especially in the second half, I should say, a well-earned win over the newcomers of Ipswich.
Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz. It was their show at the Emirates for Arsenal as they kicked off their campaign with a 2-1 win over Wolves. So the real question of this entire match is really, what was better? The goals or the, how do I say, the egregious ass grab?
The butt grab.
I mean,
it was, listen, the goals were great. Havertz stormed into the box, got one with his head. It was a lovely bit of play and a number 9's goal, if you will. Saka, you got to force him to the outside. You cannot let him get on his left foot there. That's Agreed. Just like trying to guard Saka one-on-one. Got him on left foot. He curled around great. But that butt grab, you had to come. It wasn't your typical, we're standing side by side. I'm going to get myself a squeeze. I had to come. You're bending over. I had to come from your front side over top of you and put a hand on the old buttocks there.
And I mean, I don't know how much of the cheek he actually got, but I mean, it was like the old credit card swipe.
It was who was it that he did it to again?
And then, he did it to Gabriel. I mean,
yes, that's
Jesus.
Right. Yeah.
And
so, he was not too happy with it.
Right. So he shoves them.
As you would. Yeah.
He shoves them and then he gets a yellow card.
We'll talk about this here in just a second, but it's always that retaliation. Exactly. The butt grabber didn't get a card. The guy that pushed the butt grabber got the card.
Oh, I think overall my impressions on this match was good. But I was a little surprised at how slow-paced the first half of this match was.
Yeah.
I really expected Arsenal to come out. They could outpace, outpass, and outmaneuver Wolves easily. Yet they came out very, very kind of slow and lethargic at points. And I was surprised by that.
Yeah, they had the lion's share, right? They possessed the ball a lot there in the first half, but they slowed it down and they kind of turned it into a half court game, if you will, half field game. So, yeah. Brighton Hove and Albion absolutely wiped the floor with Everton, who looked dreadful in front of their home crowd at Goodison Park. Matoma, Welbeck, and Dingra were the 3 goal scorers that secured an opening day and first win for the youngest manager in the Premier League at 31 years young, Fabian Holzer, and his Seagulls. Get this. He was only 7 years old when his starting midfielder and James Milner began his Premier League career 23 years ago.
That's hilarious.
Wild. And listen, he brought St. Pauli up from Bundesliga 2 to the top flight this year. Okay. So Brighton went after him, got him. He seemingly is playing a similar style to what Brighton have played the past few years under Potter, under
De Zerbi.
De Zerbi. It's seemingly like he has the respect of the players. He also has some people back, which help, right? Matoma was out for a lot of last year. He put out a strong lineup, and it was pretty much Brighton from the go.
Yeah.
And they couldn't really catch anything on them.
Yeah.
He set his side up well. Yes, it's Everton who avoided the drop last year, but it's a Sean Dyche team. Usually don't put up 3 in Sean Dyche.
Yeah.
Normally there was a red card
down
by Ashley Young, but that really didn't have any bearing on the game.
Yeah.
It was late. I think, we're going to see what they do against Man United at the Amex early Saturday morning. Brighton have done quite well against United in past years. So we'll see if that's, stays the same for them.
Yeah. I mean, not much else to look at or a lens to look at it through. Everton were just off the pace. Couldn't see me. They're chasing ghosts out there for most of it. questionable red card did not stop Newcastle from a 1-0 win over returnees to the league, Southampton. Should that have been a red card?
No, and I think we all were. I think you were the first one to send out a text to our chat. Was like, "What do you think of the red?" And I was like, "No,
Yeah,
2 yellows. It wasn't. The head moved towards the chest a bit, but it was 2 players coming together. You give them both cards, and you move on. And for the most part, that was what everybody, had said on commentary and pundits and all of that. However, what was also said was the player that reacts is the one that's going to get caught.
Yeah, the retaliation.
And that's what happened here.
Yeah, so a Newcastle gets fouled from behind well after the play. And it's basically a shoulder into the mid of his back. And he goes down. He obviously takes...
Not too happy.
Yeah, he's not too happy. So he gets up and he's got a problem with it. And both players kind of like lean forward with that, that I'm going to put
up to you. We're going to go.
I'm going to put my head against your head kind of thing. And both players lean in. And then the Southampton player falls over. And then a red card comes out.
Yeah.
So
it was a shambolic, it was, I don't even remember who that player was for them.
Who was it? No even reason to kind of
it was absolutely poor.
Yeah, it was Fabian Schär who got the red.
Yes, and it was Ben Diaz who got the yellow on it. And it was just shocking from him just to kind of con the ref in that way and con VAR because VAR upheld it.
Right.
Well, fairness, because they stuck with the decision on the field.
Right.
But
there was not enough evidence to overturn it. Allegedly.
Did you say so?
I said allegedly.
Blake, I hope you enjoy this because I got to write this in week 1, baby. Early season Wood rises up in the 23rd minute as Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth play out a 1-1 draw at the City Ground. We have to say, get well soon to Danilo, who was down for a long time there in the first half with an apparent ankle break, was it?
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, so I hope he gets well. But a pretty run-of-the-mill 1-1 draw here. We'll see how these teams go along.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much to go on with these guys. Just, it was kind of a ho-hum game. Aston Villa come out firing as their new signing Onana gets his first, opens up his account.
No.
And once suspected West Ham signing, Duran gets the match winner in a 2-1 shootout at the London Stadium to kick off the season. So how good were Villa from the start?
They were good. They for what they have coming up this season, they came out and they were kind of firing all cylinders, and similar to like Man City, kind of picked up where they left off last season. I did think it was funny. Duran, I did not know this at the time, but he kind of had a muted celebration just geared towards the Villa fans that were there and basically saying, I'm here.
Right.
And what he was saying was, I'm here to stay, because he was caught on an Instagram live video in the summer giving the hammer sign with like the cross in front of you.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of talk and it was very close that he would be signing with West Ham.
Ooh.
And he gave that. So he came out with an apology, and this was kind of his way. He put the goal against the team that he was going to go to.
Right.
Happened to be the game winning goal, and basically told the fans, on the field, I'm here. I'm here to stay.
Right.
Type of things, which I thought was an interesting storyline to the game that I did not know going into it.
So how do you feel about Aston Villa's immediate future?
Well, they got Arsenal coming up this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. in the Premier like 12:30 match, and they beat Arsenal twice last year.
Yep.
So we'll see if they can do the same this year. But they got a Champions League draw that's coming up here sometime in September. So we'll see. It's week one's hard, right? It's hard to tell for any team.
Sure.
So we can't take a great deal away from these games, but it gives us a little bit of a glimpse to what these teams might be going into, as you said, the immediate next few months.
Right. I mean, are they going to end up... We had such high hopes for Newcastle last year. They're playing great ball on the front foot, very exciting style of play. Got a little bogged down, got a lot of injuries.
That's the key.
Right. So do we think that is a similar fate Aston Villa is going to lump into, or do we think they're going to be better off?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so, because Emery's been there before. He's coached teams that have had to play on a few different fronts, had to play in Europe against those type of teams. He seemingly brought in players in some depth that they needed to, that we talked about on our preview pod, that I think, will certainly help them. But if, it depends. If they decide to put all their eggs in that basket, because they have Real Madrid and AC Milan and PSG, and they're and they just decide, oh, we're just going after this. Who knows?
Right.
Those injuries may pile up. The games may come thick and fast. A number of things.
Yeah,
I think out the gate, I think they're going to be okay. Do I think they're going to end in the top 4? No, but I think they're going to end up somewhere in that top 6 range. I still think that's going to happen. No, Tony, no problem. As Brentford get an opening day win at home, courtesy of a Johan Wissa goal and an assist, and they down London foes Crystal Palace 2-1 at the G-Tech. So no Tony was in the match day squad amongst what kind of came out later to be Saudi transfer rumors for him. But, I guess everybody kind of expects him to go at some point this season. But can Brentford survive the drop without him this season?
I think they can. I think there's going to be teams that are worse than Brentford, and that's the only reason.
Yeah, and I think, and Thomas Frank basically said this after the game to some effect, that they won games without him last season.
Yeah,
but I bet if you cornered Frank and said, do you want Tony in the team or not, regardless of anything going on, he would say yes.
Sure,
because his goals in the second half of the season certainly helped.
Yeah,
right. But it's like a Kane, where you have to play a different style, and it's productive style, and that number 9 will get goals. But the team can also score without Kane there.
Right.
And Tottenham showed that a lot last year. So the team can also, certainly score. That seems that Wissa and Buemo front 2 when Tony's not there does a damn good job up front.
Yeah.
If they stay fit, they will cause problems for a lot of teams, and that's where the goals will come from them.
Yeah.
So
and like I said, I think they're worse teams in the league.
Yeah.
So that will definitely help them on staying up. Ferris, it's a new year, but it's the same old Spurs.
Yes, indeed.
And it's the same old Jamie Vardy.
Yes, indeed, man.
As his
37 years old.
As his 57th minute goal proved to equalize as the match then plays out to a 1-1 at the King Power. We have to ask, how many Red Bulls do you have in one day?
I thought this was hysterical. There was all these reports that like his routine in a day of kind of what he goes through. And he was talking about this after the game. And I guess he wakes up and he has a Red Bull with egg and ham or something like that. He then goes and wakes up his kid and drives into work, and he has a Red Bull and he gets to the gym. Then with lunch, he has he has 3 or 4 Red Bulls before the day's even really gotten going or fully ended yet. At 37, I guess, listen, you gotta keep going. However, you gotta keep going. But he was up to his same shenanigans. He got subbed off and is gesturing towards the Tottenham crowd. I've won one I've won one Premier League. You guys have won 0 as he's walking off. And just
brilliant.
It's great to have him back in the league.
I mean, one thing that I thought was hilarious was that a meme of Postecoglou is going around. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
No.
When Jamie Vardy's goal goes in, Postecoglou, who's standing in his technical area, just kind of leans forward and puts his hands on his knees. So he's kind of like, like bent over in a 7 position with his hands on his knees. And so Leicester City fans took the Tottenham logo and they put him they erased the top of the Tottenham logo and they put him as the top on the ball. And it's hilarious.
Cheeky.
Love it. Brings us to the old halftime.
Some beer news.
All the news that's fit to drink. We'll keep it pretty fast on this one. This is a pretty entertaining story, though.
Oh.
Do you happen to remember Hulkamania?
Oh, of course I do. The Hulkster, baby.
A good old
He's
Hulkster.
a Clearwater legend.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'd see him at church. He'd come on the big holidays. We'd see him on Easter. We'd see him on Christmas. He always wears bandana. They were doing the Who Knows Hogan or Live Like Hogan show on MTV for a while. It was filmed on a neighborhood down by the beach in Clearwater. Yeah, we see him all the time in Clearwater.
Yeah. So he has a beer company.
No.
Yeah. And so, right now, I'll say over the past 2 or 3 years, it's been very fashionable for, sports and other celebrities to open a beer company, right? And have a beer. Well, Real American Beer is the name of Hulk Hogan's beer company.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah. And the can, he's got one beer. It's a light beer, a light lager.
I would if you would have told me IPA, my head would have exploded.
Right?
I would have expected nothing else than a light lager.
Exactly. A real American beer for real American people. Take a look at the can art. The can art is hilarious. It's
oh dear God.
So much America slapped on a label with him when he was the picture of him holding an American flag, kind of kneeling over the crest of the beer. His body is from the 1980s, but his head is from like 2022. Like the artwork is hilarious.
Even better.
And so the brand founded by the former Hulk, the former wrestler, is on sale in 10 markets across the country. Ohio.
Please tell me Florida's one.
Of course.
Yes, we have to buy some.
Colorado, Florida, and Michigan. It's a 4.2 ABV beer, and it's quite entertaining. Positioned as a premium American-style light lager, Real American Beer leans heavy into the provenance for a sales cue. America is at its best when united, the brand's website states, and if there's one thing we can all agree on, it's the simple pleasure of sharing a beer. That's why we started Real American Beer, to bring people together, one beer at a time.
That's fair. I can subscribe to that. It's simple.
But wait, there's more.
Oh, okay.
So Ohio is the latest market for this beer brand. So the Hulkster is out going to bars and promoting his beer.
Okay. And if you didn't know, a lot of, for those out there, and I don't mention this before on the pod, Florida and Ohio get a lot of the same beers. We have similar type laws, if I'm not mistaken, on what can go there and whatnot.
Right.
Like you can find you can find now, but even back then, Highlight you could find up there in Ohio when it first got going.
Yeah. And if you listen to any of the athletic podcasts, Highlight is advertised.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So going back to the Hulkster here. On Medina Road in Medina Township, Ohio.
Okay.
Around 5:30 p.m. at a lovely establishment called the Thirsty Cowboy.
As you do in Ohio.
The world-famous wrestler was promoting his brand new brand Real American Beer when a woman was hit by a can, knocking her unconscious to the ground. According to the Medina Township Police report, witnesses responded to the officers that Hogan was the one that threw the beer at her. But other witnesses said that it was another crew member throwing the beers. Hulk Hogan says, "I didn't throw any beers," but you can't do anything in this world without it being on social media. So videos immediately surfaced of Hulk Hogan throwing beers, baseball pitching style, into the crowd before drinking a beer himself, ripping off his shirt, and throwing more beer into the crowd.
America, baby.
You can't make this up.
That is brilliant. He knocks somebody out.
Yeah. The woman ends up getting 9 stitches.
Good God. How fast was he throwing the damn... Was it a can? Was it a bottle? Was it a keg?
It was a can.
Good God.
But it was baseball pitching style. So somebody wound up from last week and flung the beer. No one can accurately say whether or not it was the actual Hulkster who threw that beer.
Okay, that's fair. You know, and of
because
course, is this video online?
Yes. Yeah, you can see it. I'll post a link.
If Hulk Hogan throwing Andre the Giant, which, you know, certainly happened back in the day, but throwing a beer?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's
Here we go. He gives the shaka. Can comes over.
Yep.
Where is this at? This is O'Toole's Royal Oak, Michigan. Who wants a beer behind bar? He's just kind of underhand tossing it. All right, you. Thumbs up. Let's see if he does one overhead. There's people all over the place, man. They're just pulling out of a cooler and just tossing them to the crowd.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Okay.
So we should be on the lookout for Hulk Hogan's beer so we can give it a good review here on the old pod.
Absolutely. Where is it in stores?
I don't
like. Is it distributed, or do you have to buy it online?
I think you have to buy it online. I haven't found distribution yet.
Oh my God, his tagline! Yeah, brother.
Of course.
Oh, we have to have this beer.
You gotta love it,
America.
Heck yeah! All right, that brings us back from the old halftime.
From America to the Ligas Roundup. All right. Some other European leagues started off this weekend. I was on the couch for a majority of this Saturday and Sunday, so I got to watch a lot of the other leagues, which was quite fun. One in particular is the Serie A. Quite entertaining in CBS's Golasso type coverage of the Serie A. Quite good. A lot of draws for the most part. On Saturday, Inter tied 2-2 with Genoa. Genoa almost beat him, by the way, too. It came down to, I think, like an 82nd minute. It was an 82nd minute goal by Turan, who was his second of the day, and then a very late goal by Genoa. So they almost got him there. 1-1 with Calcio, with Parma and Fiorentina. The one that I was watching a lot was the AC Milan and Torino game. And Torino had not beaten AC Milan at AC Milan. Was it AC Milan? Or was this? No, it was not at the same. I think it was in Turin. No. It was in Milan. They had not beaten them there like ever. And they were 2-0 up in the 68th. They were 2-0 up in the 88th.
Right.
Before Morata came on and made it 2-1. And then the other sub, Okafor, came on and made it 2-2. In fairness, AC Milan had a lot of chances. Pulisic had a lot of chances. They were hitting the bar. They were shooting them wide. They're doing everything. But Torino almost got away with what would have been just a famous win for them on the opening day. The only other couple of games to really kind of talk about was on Sunday. Lazio beat Venezia 3-1. Started off a little hot there as Venezia took the lead in the third minute. But then a few minutes later, Lazio in the 11th with a former NYCFC player, Castellanos, scored. And then 2 second-half goals got them that 3-1 win. And then on Monday, Atalanta, fresh off of being beat by Real Madrid in the Club World Cup champion, whatever, absolutely demolished Lecce. 4-0 on the day. And then New Boys Como, which is quite cool if you have not seen. It's coached by Cesc Fabregas. It's in Como, Italy, which, is bougie and everything else. Right. But they got promoted last year, and their first game was, welcome to the league. You have Juventus.
Right. Good luck.
And Juventus went on to win 3-0. So some fun games over there in Italy. Serie A. All could be found on Paramount Plus. You can watch all the games there. Some will be showed on CBS and CBS Sports Network, but fun time. Over on ESPN Plus, though, was La Liga. And they actually started on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. They had 2 games on Thursday, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, 2 on Monday. They know how to split up their games. I'm just saying.
Right.
That is a full, that's covering you all the way through. A lot of draws here as well. Nothing too big. Barcelona did beat Valencia 2-1. It took a Robert Lewandowski late pen for his second of the game to make it 2-1. I'm sorry, late pen. I mean, it was in the second half. He scored a late goal in the first half to make it 1-1, and then coming out of half to make it 2-1. So they won. Real Vallecano beat Real Sociedad 2-1. Which was quite interesting. On the same day that Mallorca held off the mighty Kylian Mbappe Real Madrid. 1-1 on the day.
I think there's work for Ancelotti to be that. I think the weird strategy of just pushing everybody to the left is not going to work.
Yeah, it interesting, right? You just kind of have to figure it out. Honestly, the starting lineup was quite good, and it's a team that you fast forward here a few months, it's a team that's going to be doing some damage because your front three, sure. Vicinius off to the left, Mbappe down the center, Rodrigo who got the goal off to your right, Bellingham, Valverde, midfield with many holding down that 6 role in midfield, Carvajal, Militao, Rudiger, and Mendy in the back line. And then Courtois in goal. Yeah. In fairness, he had to make some saves here. The back line, on paper, should not have been as in shambles as they were in this game, but they were.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Mallorca almost won this game.
Definitely seemed hungover.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that front three just needs some time to gel a little bit. That's probably going to be your front three. I think with that added Bellingham back there, he came out and kind of said, hey, we have to do some things a little bit different than we have in the past, or like you have to kind of track back. I'm having to track back a lot, which is you don't have Kroos in there anymore. You don't have somebody that's really going to do that work. Valverde is very, very good and can do that work, but he's going to want to play at times that number 10 role that Bellingham's up there. So they're kind of playing the same position. You don't necessarily have a true box to box.
Yeah. This also kind of reeked of a little bit of showing off all the shiny toys, right?
Yeah.
Like first game of the season, here's a little bit of Mbappe, here's a little bit of Bellingham. Here's a little bit of all this attacking might that they have, right? But again, it's the first game of the season, so like they're once they gel, it's going to be really tough.
Oh yeah, and they had plenty of shots and chances in the first half and in the second half, and stats certainly geared their way with 13 total shot, but it was Mallorca that had the bigger of the chances. Yeah. Madrid 0 big chances, Mallorca with 2, so the expected goals was even in Mallorca's favor. But yeah, I think Madrid will be fine. Ancelotti did not look phased on the sideline. It's game 1 of their 30-some game season as well. They'll be just fine. And then just to cap it off on Monday, Villarreal and Atletico Madrid got into a bit of a battle. All 4 goals in the first half. 2-2 it ended.
Yep.
But all 4 goals in the first half. So
the little late breaking news was Barca are likely to release Gundogan to go back to Man City.
Yep, that's it. Joao Felix, as you said, going the other way.
Yep, goes to Chelsea.
With Conor Gallagher going to Madrid.
Yep.
So they're still up to some stuff in the transfer market. Now, real quick, before we talk U.S. manager, possibly. German Bundesliga kicks off this weekend. Starts off on Friday with Borussia Mönchengladbach.
You gotta love it.
Against Bayern Leverkusen. That should be a fun one. And Bayern Leverkusen did it again. In the DF Pokal, they were down somebody and scored another late goal to keep it 1-1 in advance on pens.
Yep.
They just picked up where they
find a way to win
last season.
Find a way to win. That's it.
Wild. Then Saturday, a whole host of games, a lot of 9:30 games. Augsburg versus Werder Bremen, Freiburg versus Stuttgart, Hoffenheim versus Holstein Kiel, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is a new team up this season. Then you have Mainz and Union Berlin, RB Leipzig versus Bochum, and then Borussia Dortmund versus Eintracht Frankfurt at 12:30. That should be a fun one. And on Sunday, you have Wolfsburg and Bayern. St. Pauli, another new boy, against FC Heidenheim. And then, that caps your first week of the German Bundesliga.
Gotta love it.
Now, to end the pod, and we're getting there. To end the second half, I should say, of the pod, there was reports this week, strong reports, multiple sources confirmed that former Tottenham, PSG, and Chelsea boss Mauricio Pochettino will become the U.S. men's national team's next head coach. What say you?
If,
yes.
There's a big if here.
There is.
Chelsea are still paying the salary for him from being let go prematurely from his contract. So
yes.
Allegedly, the clauses in the contract state that if he takes on another footballing job, Chelsea don't have to pay him. So if he wants a paycheck from Chelsea, he's not contractually not allowed to take this head coaching job.
And he's not going to get paid anywhere near what he was there for the U.S. men's job.
That is correct.
You like to think that the paperwork and the lawyers and everybody will figure out that side of it, right? How, in terms of if he does become the next head coach, what an absolute signing that is, though. Nah, you think?
I don't know.
Oh, this excites me.
I think we will definitely get better, right? I have not been Pochettino's greatest fan throughout the course of his managerial career. However, what he did with Chelsea, bringing them from 12th in the league to 6th, and how he righted the ship in the last 6 months of the Premier League was an impressive feat. So I do think he would be good at bringing stability to a team that has very little identity and very little cohesion. I think he would be great for that. Whether or not we're going to win anything, is different.
Absolutely. And I think Poch is a big name, right? We tried our hand at Klopp, kind of knew what that outcome was going to be in a way. The next tier, if you will, of big name managers out there that are jobless, if you will, Poch is at the top of that list. And I think what he can bring is a lot of knowledge, insight. He's shown that he could cultivate players that are young. Look at your Kanes over the years, your Bales over the years, your Dele Alli's over the years. He's been able to cultivate that young talent and get them to a very high level. At PSG, he's also shown with a lot of different superstars, he can win in a league that's not that great. So, i.e. CONCACAF. So hopefully nothing will change there, right? It's what he's going to do, obviously, in 3 years' time when the World Cup comes here to the States. That's what he's being hired for primarily.
Sure.
Is the success of what that team's going to do when they're playing on their home soil here in 3 years.
Right.
And while that is an unknown for everybody, I like my chances going to battle, if you will, against all the other teams with somebody like Poch at the helm than I do a Greg Berhalter at the helm.
Oh, I agree with that. I don't think Berhalter, to be honest, I didn't think Berhalter was the right man for the job the first time around, but I would rather have Poch than Berhalter without question.
Yeah.
I just don't know that he's going to, let me rephrase this. I don't know that the U.S. system is ready to win major tournaments. I don't think it matters who the manager is because the way the U.S. system works, it doesn't actually bring you the best players that the country has to offer, right? And there's a lot of political shenanigans and a lot of money changing hands and a lot of all that craziness, allegedly. So I'm not sure that any manager is really going to pull us to win a 2026 World Cup. But Pochettino is, like you said, a great manager for cultivating young talent. He will impose an identity. He will impose a style of play. And that's something that we really haven't had that much of in the Berhalter time. So,
yeah, and Matt Crocker, who's kind of leading the charge in the GM, if you will, brought in Hayes, right? Went back to his roots in England with what he knows. Hayes, probably the biggest name out there in terms of women managers. Kind of a no-brainer there to go after her, to get her, knowing that she coached here in the States. She wants to coach this team, the most probably predominant women's team in the world, the most well-known by far.
Sure.
In terms of what they've done, right? Poch kind of went back to the well here with England with his time at Southampton for as many years as he was. If you remember, prior to Tottenham, Poch had great success with Southampton at the time between 2013 and 2014. Did quite well with them. I kind of went back to the well. Now, he's available. He's out there. He's free. I can't, to that argument that I just kind of said, it's not just, that he's better than Greg Berhalter, who's out there right now that you could actually get.
Right.
Klopp would have been everybody's absolutely pie in the sky, 100% yes. Tried that. That didn't work, but at least we tried that.
Sure. Yeah, right? You got to try, right?
Right. I'm glad we did that. Poch being next, I think I'd be, I'm excited for this news because it is a big snag when we haven't necessarily had that. I like to think that the U.S. Soccer Federation has learned a bit from the Jurgen Klinsmann days, where Klinsmann was almost ahead of his time in terms of where we're at with the U.S. soccer, of what these players need to do and making some tough calls and that sort of thing. And ultimately, he got the sack. Poch, I don't think, is going to be that. divisive of a character in charge, but he's going to stand his ground, right? We just saw that with where he was at and stood his ground against, Todd Bowley and listen, we're not jiving here on where we want to go with this club. So I think we just should split.
See ya. Right.
I'll leave. So I think there's a lot of good aspects, not just on the field and not just kind of his CV in terms of what he done with his past clubs, but I think it's hope it's hope and promise to hopefully improve this team. It was hope with Hayes within 10 games. We saw what that did in gold. That's great. Poch isn't going to have necessarily that opportunity now. Right. He has 3 years. He might play in a few Nations League Cups and a few CONCACAF things here and there, have some big name friendlies, that sort of thing. But there's no Olympics. Not that he would coach that. I don't believe there's another Gold Cup between now and then.
I don't think so. It's going to be a very interesting season because you're not really going to have any major tournaments to help run you up to the World Cup.
Right. So, but he has a good amount of time to kind of progress that team that we have, that young group that a lot of are calling the golden years, if you will, in terms of the talent that we have, to move them to that next level. And what that is for us, who knows? That could just be a semi-final. That could just be a quarterfinal game. But you know what? We got out of the group of death and we topped the group and we beat a damn good team in the round of 16 and we lost to, an Argentina in the quarterfinal. Right. It could be a number of things, but where we go, time will tell. And time will tell, obviously, if we actually fully secure him and it's signed and sealed. And
do you think he leaves the Chelsea money behind in order to do it?
I think eventually, yes. I think because his love for the game and his love to coach will kind of outweigh that check. But the U.S. have to come up probably in there. We don't know the exact numbers, but they're going to have to come up somewhere. And I think if you're going to accept this job and it's confirmed that you're going to accept this from all reports, you're doing it for the project at hand, for what you could do to possibly be in the lore of the U.S. soccer as this game continues to grow here.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see.
That it is. And that has been your La Liga's Roundup.
Well done. Well done.
All right. Ron, what was the beer that you had?
So I had a beer from the Mexicali Valley. I just like saying it because the alliteration is beautiful. From Cucapa Cerveza, I had their amber ale, which was good. I wouldn't write home about it. I'm not denigrating it. It was good. That was it. What'd you have?
I had a shot of Jameson.
Yeah.
And some H2O to go with that.
Good for you.
But if you haven't, give us a like and a follow on Instagram, on
Twitter,
Facebook, the X. I mean, we're not as active as we once were on those things, but we're probably more active on Untapped.
Yeah.
The social media beer forum, if you will, where you share and you share things of your beer, you rate the beer, you can talk about it, discuss it, all that stuff. So we are certainly on there. Tell your grandmas, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your moms to subscribe and download on whatever podcast platform that you like to listen to this amazing, terrible podcast on, if you will. And I'm going to go back to the well with that athletic article with a Zlatan quote.
Go for it.
And it is such a good article and insight. And there was somebody, I think, Publicity Sports posted something about what he's been doing in the off season. and he's like a goat of the off season. He's just done everything that he wanted to do in retirement. He's like, running in the Maldives, and he's just doing all of these things, right? He's just doing all this stuff. But when he sat down to do a interview with Adam Crofton of The Athletic, he struts into the bar, I guess, in wherever New Jersey hotel they were doing it. And he said, I have only one restriction when I do interviews. He says it very straight-faced. When a journalist comes to for an interview, he must put on this outfit. He points across the room to the AC Milan Red Devil costume that was on an adjacent table. The ice broke, and Zlatan giggles, leads the way to the quiet boardroom, and he says, my time is expensive. He smiles. Let's keep going. Or no, let's get going. Sorry.
He's awesome. I mean, he's just the best character.
He's just the gift that keeps on giving.
Yep. Well, I will not be in the pod next week. I'm actually will be finished all of my Halloween requirements. So the family and I are going on an Alaskan cruise, which will be really nice.
Fun.
One of the things that I like doing on cruises is you just kind of sit on the balcony of your stateroom and you just read a book.
Indeed. I remember that. Yeah.
The only problem is I think I'm going to be out of a book by then, right? Because so you know that I'm a bit of a science nerd. Blake is the all things cultural nerd with like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I'm the science nerd. And I picked up this book that is all about essentially anti-gravity, right? And how all the different theories and things like that on anti-gravity. The problem is that I can't put it down. So I might not have a book to read by the time I get to the cruise. So I'm going to have to, really find a new book. Thank you.
Welcome back, folks. Week 1 of the Premier League.
Yep. Good old
Thank
dad
you
joke.
for, yes, Blake would be happy. Blake would be very happy. Thank you very much for listening to the pod and what will be another exciting Premier League season. We always end with love the beer, cherish the game, the beautiful game.